just reiterating this here real quick, right? So looking at Bitcoin here, currently ran it down to the range lows. From there, we've seen the bounce, right? We came up, we're currently holding above the monthly open, which is where we wanted to get through. We got through this golden pocket so far. We got through the monthly open, finding a little resistance right here at this weekly, which is exactly what held us down basically back in the end of January, early February right there. So could pose as a little resistance for us here in the meantime. More than anything, we'll possibly just get a pullback back down. You want to really see this monthly open hold as support anyways. And then from here, we're looking up from there. So you got this 2-year key level right above us at about $39,800. And then I was just about to bring up the old doomsday scenario that we were working with beforehand. And what that is these levels right here, right? So this was back here when we were dancing back down at this $32,000, $33,000 low. We came down. This is one of our volume targets we were looking for. We were looking for actually just one or both of these in this general region. We kind of made it through to about mid level of those. Found support here, ran it back, right? Re-entered the range, got into this range low, held the lows, ran it to the point of control, ran it to the range high, rejected from there, and basically we ran it all the way back down to the range low. But now looking at this, just kind of taking it back a minute, we were looking to regain these levels to consider upside continuation, and there's a couple reasons that go into play with this. One thing that we want to really see $38,000 hold for us anyways, which is essentially back down to this monthly open, also top of this golden pocket regardless. This level here is actually the range high of that previous historic range that we found ourselves in last summer, basically. So we don't want to be living in that range, and we were living in there for a hot minute right here. Right, we were kind of in that little range inside of a range. But we were coming into our current developing range low, so that did hold. We just kind of shot right out of it. So at the moment, we're not in that range anymore. So that's a good sign for the short term here. Once again, holding above the monthly open is a good thing to see. And really, as long as we're holding above that monthly open, we're remotely in good shape here. The next levels to get above those, pretty much you can see it on the wall there, right? Back to this box. You got 39, we'll map it off at saying 39.5 to 41K once again. Reason being is that, you've got the 2-year key level coming in here. This is also the yearly range low from last year. So we re-enter this range. Once again, that range reaches all the way back up to 64K. Whether or not we reach that is the question, of course. And then you've also got, even just for the short term here, the top of this box is actually the bottom of this previous range right here. Which took us back up to about 45. We were back into in the early January timeframe. So yeah, there's a good amount of reason to get above this level. The biggest one is this 2-year key level, and then once we get through this, right, this is when we can start looking up towards those upside targets again, right? Super simple idea here, just based again. So far we've based off the range low, right? We're taking off so far, not getting major rejection at the moment, but we could see a pullback to this monthly open. You want to see this 2-year level regained right here, and then our natural next target is basically the point of control up to here about $42,000. From there, you overtake that, and then we're looking to the range high once again. And unless we break out of this range right here, then there's no reason to assume that you wouldn't just remain range bound at the time, right? So you really want to look for a reaction at this level, because if we come up here and we get rejected again, just like we did over here, just like we pretty much did over here, then we run the risk of basically falling right back down to the point of control, lose that, and go back to the range lows once again. So at some point, one of these two is going to give, this high or this low. And if it is this range high here, about $45,000, then we got, we all know our targets to the upside very well at this point, right? We've got the next major target coming in. Realistically is about $47,000, right? You've got 47.7. It's at our yearly key level right above us, right above this range. Above that, you've got point of control. I think it's about 49,000 in that realm. It's like 49K, and then you got the range high of that next range above us going back up to 50K. From there, you've even got that massive total year range reaching up to upwards of about 58K. So regardless, we got a ton of upside targets, obviously, right? The key is just breaking this range. So getting above $45,000 and closing above, right? We've not closed above this since we basically fell into it back over here, which was January 5th. Right, so we ran up to the range highs a couple times, a couple wicks, Never have even closed a 4-hour candle above this level so far. So that would be our first check on the check boxes. If we're going to see new highs coming in here for this current range, you want to see that 45K getting busted through with at least a 4-hour candle close, daily close, higher time frame there. When these breakouts happen, so to speak, everybody gets really excited for that existing 4 hours. And it's a long time, right? 4 hours when you're living it out and you're thinking, okay, this is good. Should I buy now? Should I, whatever the case is, all the emotions start flooding in, right? As you're anticipating this to just kind of run after it's already ran so far. We experienced this live the other night, right? Because the same emotions come into play at the range low. Right here, right? You're experiencing this and you are anticipating that this is just not going to hold. It's just going to break. It's just been melting to the downside. Why would it turn around here? Blah, blah, blah. And 4 hours is a long time. This actually took about 12 hours before we actually even got a decent little turnaround, right? So imagine anybody that's like sweating this, if you're in leverage positions, if you took longs out, wherever, right? Like, or just in general, if you're considering selling because everybody's thinking and looking to 30K when we come down to this level. And while those levels are valid to keep in mind, you can't get too wrapped up in those when, until you really break a certain level here, right? So that's what having that plan in place is really all about, right? Not many people in the Discord, I assume, really lost sleep on this move. Even if you weren't able to act on it, and that's the biggest thing I bring up all the time, right? I know everybody's in the market already. I know everybody's probably holding even from, all the way from last year. And even though we're mapping out these moves and this and that, like you may not be willing to pull the trigger and you may not be willing to risk the market just turning around on you right now and you miss out, you sell the low basically. And that's a big emotion that comes into play, right? And that's a really hard one to beat. But at least when you have this idea here that, most people were not looking at this as a range low. I guarantee most were not looking for $36,600 as a major level for any reason. It just starts going off to the rounded levels, right? It's just like, 35K, 34, or whatever the case may be, 37. And in reality, we were coming down, we were grinding out the lows right here. Basically turned around so far, right? We could still come back down. And once again, we know what to expect once things happen. And depending on how your strategy is, if you're setting up alerts, if you're just constantly monitoring the market, realistically, a big thing to watch for is losing this previous low. So far, bringing this up though, right? Because it's not all doom and gloom. So far, this idea here, and if you, and not to say, most people in here now is only 60 people. I'm sure this is only people from the group at this point. But, we were going over this exact play, right? Where it's like we could come all the way back down to this range low. And theoretically, all we'd be doing is making, right, a higher low. So we came all the way to this level so far, right? We come down and we punch through here. Obviously, we got to take some other motives here. But so far, that's exactly what we did, right? We came down, we ran it up, we got that high. Now we got to look for a higher high, of course, and that's quite a journey ahead of us. But don't forget that we have some quick moves often, right? That was a pretty nice move to the upside. You get pretty exponential quick moves to the downside. So these things happen fast. So it's all about having that plan, right? While everybody's looking at this inverse head and shoulders that could have broken out, right? It's always possible. Most did not have any sort of idea of what to anticipate if it didn't, right? So people were coming in, probably buying into the market or whatever, even if you're just holding, right? Like just assuming, okay, you know what, for perfect, Bitcoin's going to start going back up. This is awesome. But what's the invalidation of that, right? Because like most people are going to be looking at this in the sense of, they're buying early because they probably getting right here. They're seeing this entire like 90% pattern, created. And then, you're just going to assume that it's going to break out. Well, if you're buying in early or just holding regardless, right, just anticipating, really this pattern doesn't even come into, somewhat of a reality until the neckline is broken and really retested. But in general, at least this neckline is broken. So you'd have to look all the way back up to 46K. And for me, what we've been working on the last few months especially is kind of like putting in context clues and some confluence with other things, these ranges, these levels, these volume targets, these key levels, yearly opens, monthly opens, and so on. So if that was to play out, that'd be great. What that would really have meant though for us, right, is that, hey, we would have broke this range high. We would have came up and we would have regained the yearly open, right? Both major key levels basically. And if that was the case, you come back down, you retest that yearly open. Realistically, everybody else would be looking at this as retesting this neckline. And yeah, this could have just took off. Measured move of 58K. That target is very valid, right? 58K is that yearly point of control from last year. I mean, all those things could have lined up. The problem is that if you didn't get through this range high, which nobody is probably looking for the most part. I wouldn't say nobody, but so that's what we're trying to prepare everybody for these scenarios the most, because these 6 levels here have been on this chart for at least the last 24 days now. So with that idea in play, right? So that's what we're looking for here. Anyways, we got the rejection. Where to look next, right? You look down at the point of control, so on and so forth. And then what I was bringing that up for is that even if you weren't able to, take some off to the side, a couple of members reached out, a couple of new members, or just people that are in the group in general, and were saying that they took the risk and they took a little bit. They just practiced, right? They just took a little bit off the table at the range high, and they bought back in at the range low. It wasn't a ton, but it was just like good practice, right? They weren't worried if they cashed out whatever it was. I think it was like maybe $200 or $300 of something, and if it would have ran, then whatever. But otherwise, they had $300 on the side, right? Like, and that's just good measure to just kind of play that out, because one thing of this market, if it's taught us anything, right, is that it's always gonna we're always gonna have these days, right, where we got these down days. There's always gonna be a red day coming into play, where fresh powder on the side is gonna be, regardless if you could have had it left in something and it would have ran more or this or that. It is always a great feeling to be able to buy the dip or buy the red day, right? All those things that people always say, and most people can't, because they're just fully in all the time. Enough about that whole scenario there. What are we looking for next, right? Just for this RSI idea here, right? Because we were talking about this the other night too. While we were running this live, we were grinding into the range low, boom, boom, boom. We were putting in some bullish divergence here at the time, right? So the RSI was making higher lows, price actions making lower lows. The thing is now, though, is that we've actually got some bearish divergence, right? And this is hidden bearish divergence kind of printing out. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays, if it plays out at all, right? Sometimes these don't, or they build for quite a while. So that's something to keep in mind. But generally, you got price action basically. I mean, I guess this could pump out of this here and kind of invalidate it, but we got the RSI, printing a real higher high here, and we have not yet done that so far in price action. So generally, this is hidden bearish divergence, so something to keep in mind as well. It's 4-hour time frame, so once again, just a small time frame, but this could, kind of trigger this pullback, maybe back down to the range low, even whatever the case is. But if we do start making a higher high than over here, then essentially it's kind of invalidated. But depends on how you want to look at it, I suppose. Something to bring up there. Other than that, we're looking up towards this 2-year key level, right? Very, very likely that we get a pullback, more so back towards that monthly open. Really want to stay above this 38K. Like I said, this is, I'm going to bring up the previous range that we were in, right? That basically, and this is pretty much everybody here is in the group. So this is that June range that we were looking at from last year, right? Take a look all the way back over here. No, you see it. I can't see it on TikTok, but this box, right? So I know it looks a little confusing here, but the top line comes in right here at about 30, right at 38K. Bottom is 32,250, and this is that range that we, basically punched back into over here. This is where actually our doomsday targets line up perfectly with, right? You got that bottom of the range low is right here, and that's that WNPOC, that volume target. So not where we wanted to be, right? And so far, let me see if I can turn off this golden pocket. There we go. So you can see the range high coming in right here. So far we've popped out of that. What you want to see. Also, coincidence, right? That the monthly open, where we want to live above anyways, is lining up right with that range high. But this could act as some support coming back down towards this range high right here, right? So this is where we want to kind of see held at 37.9. 38K, so very possible we get a pullback to that base off of this as support and then take off from there. So we did not want to be living in this range, because this was very, very likely that we were going to start moving lower. We had the point of control for this range coming in at 35.8, and then, like I said, you had the doomsday target, which was basically the range low. Lose that point of control, and more than likely you're going to see that range low, and that was exactly down there at 32.2. So Keeping these levels in mind though, right? Like if we see some crazy pullback or anything like that, just so write these down, like so you know what to expect, know what to look for. The biggest thing you don't want to do is panic when some fast candles start moving in. All right, but that's the downside, right? So for now, we are looking up. Took over the two levels we really wanted to get back above, right? And we're looking up toward, and the two levels I'm talking about is the golden pocket and this monthly open. So, not 100% out of the woods yet. Really want to start coming in, making some higher highs over here. This 2-year key level would be a good one to get back above, and then from there we're looking up to the point of control, right? After that, range highs back in play. We want to see that busted. You got your yearly open and your yearly right above this at 47.7. So that's pretty much the dynamic, right? Bitcoin in a nutshell is just that. So looking to hold these levels right here. If not, we got the range low. If we start losing that, then we're probably going to that range low that we just brought up, that 32.2. First pit stop would be around 35 at the point of control of that previous historic range, and then you got the range lows, right? But until we break this, don't get too worked up looking at that. We can just get this pullback. Be aware of where the monthly open is, right? It's about 38.2. Hold that as support, and we're looking up. ETH, pretty much the same deal. I want to bring up something new with ETH for everybody here, right? I got a couple of new updates I'm going to put in right after this live stream for the Discord, because I was going through these charts this morning. So I've got the range low and the range high mapped out here that we've been working off of, and this is pretty much this range is set in stone, right? This is off a time that has already passed. It's not developing anymore, right? So one thing about these ranges is they're very much similar to moving averages. They're dynamic in the time frame that you're looking at. So if you're looking at something in a daily time frame, a monthly, a weekly, a yearly, whatever, right? Like if the week or the month or the year or the day is not finished, they're gonna move, right? They adjust with the price action and things of that nature. So the one that I've been looking at has been a fixed range that's been already completed. It's not changing anything of that nature. But now we're filling out a lot more time here. And I try to go for a little bit of a higher time frame, so we don't, because we could throw on literally a weekly, a daily. You could go so crazy with some of these ranges here. I go with more of a high time frame, so to speak. So just so we kind of can keep certain levels and just kind of keep updating it along the way here. So if you're not like actively day trading or swing trading, if you're just paying attention and trying to keep up with it, I think this is a better format that kind of goes some of the higher time frame ones. And so yeah, this one I've been going off of was a monthly that's already been completed. So the new monthly that we're in right now, basically for February, essentially has got enough data now going into the third week that we can start kind of looking at that. So while we're still within this, major range here, because we still are within this, this range high does come in about $3,200, and realistically we want to get above that to start looking up. But in the meantime here, right, we did come into major support back here at the golden pocket. This was at the same time. Once again, we were live the other night looking at this, 11 o'clock at night, when Bitcoin was grinding into the lows of that, the range lows of the 36.3, whatever it was at. So if you took that chance and got in on some of these at those levels, because we were looking at Link, we were looking at ETH, we were looking at DOT, everything was coming into major support. During that candle, it's scary, right? During the time frame, you think, oh, it's just going to keep going, it's just going to keep going. And then it turns around on you, right? So one thing we were looking for out of ETH was we wanted to see, same thing as Bitcoin, wanted to see that monthly open regain. So we have seen that now for Bitcoin and for ETH, at least in the short term, right? We got some 4-hour candles. We just got that 4-hour candle close. When's the next one? Next one closes here in about an hour. So we're getting some 4-hour at least closing above the monthly open. So that is what you want to see. Run into a monthly resistance here, similar to how Bitcoin is as well. And similar to how Bitcoin does, we have the 2-year key level right above this area as well. So this is the next area to pay attention to. I imagine that if Bitcoin runs it past its 2-year key level, we're going to get the same move out of ETH. So you can kind of pay attention to just Bitcoin and anticipate these moves. But yeah, that would be the next move to the upside there. Pull back to this 26.8, right? About $50-$60. Come back to the monthly open. Maybe even come back to this golden pocket as support. Before we head higher is possible too. Lose that golden pocket, and then we got that point of control down here at about 2,400. This is of that the previous range that we're pretty much in still. We got a pretty big key level monthly down here, and then you got the range low. So looking at the current, a more smaller range, however. Now we're going to take these off. So that's kind of our larger, higher time frame. pretty much set in stone. You know, that range isn't going to change. This one can, you know, has the ability to change here a little bit, but realistically it won't change too much at this point. All right, so we got the low coming in here, right? You guys can see that flicking on. It's basically that low comes in right at the golden pocket. All right, and the range high is now actually a little bit higher, back towards 33, almost 3,400. So realistically, the other range we were just looking at would come in first, so you could still pay attention for 32. After that 32, though, we'd be looking probably to get a rejection up here at about 3,400. But I wanted to bring this up because now that the current range low comes in here, that's a pretty good sign, right? So, because beforehand our range low was really coming in all the way down here. You don't really want to have that much of a gap, so to speak, especially if you start losing levels, because that's where, you know, more than likely we'd be heading back down to. The point of control is down here, you know, the previous range 2 is down here at 2,400, all those things. So now at our current range here, just want to point it out that we basically, if you were looking at this in just the range sense without the golden pocket and this and that, you know, essentially when you find acceptance back into this range, right, you hold the low, and essentially your next, you know, major natural target becomes the point of control. In the current point of control, granted, I know that there's all this in the middle, so these are levels you want to watch in between. But overall, this you know, major target coming in the short term is so it lines up basically right with our 1 year key level. So we got the you got the point of control coming in right over the yearly key level. So that, you know, double stacked, right? This is something we want to see. You want to see some confluence and some convergence in the same areas, right? That makes that a pretty big target, in my opinion. So as long as we're holding this range low, which is now, like I said, basically the golden pocket top, which is where we're at here. So same deal. Imagine you get a pullback out of Bitcoin to the monthly open, you get a pullback out of ETH back down to the golden pocket, which is really now this range low, and we run it from there. This becomes the next major target now, right? Point of control up here is probably going to get struck pretty relatively sooner than later, assuming that the market also heads up, right? So that's something we got to look for. But this would be a nice move, right? Coming out of this golden pocket, if you were entering at these levels the other night, or like I said, whatever. If you're not actively trading, whatever the case may be, if you're just holding and just kind of keeping up with the market, I do anticipate that we may see a run up to about 3,100 out of ETH here in the near term. Assuming that the market does hold and runs higher, right? So that'd be ETH. Got some levels right here as well coming in, and then essentially we break through this $3,400 level, and then we know we got this triple stacked area up here, golden pocket, volume target, yearly open, and there's something else right here. I think there's a quarterly level up in this area, but you know, getting ahead of ourselves in a little bit in that regard for short term. But yeah, that's where I'd be looking at. This yearly key level comes in right there, 3,100. Cardano is in some trouble, right? So we lost a pretty big level up here, being the range low for one, and then you've got the quarterly key level we were holding on to barely, but we came out, bearish retest, shot down this daily. Right now it's climbing back up. The only thing we want to pay attention for is how we get back into this range, or if you get back into this range, about 98 cents. So same idea here, you know, pretty much if you want to get acceptance back into the range, hold the lows. Point of control is really close, however, that's the only thing, right? This doesn't give us a lot of leeway in the short term, but point of control comes right in there about $1.04. But if you break that, move higher, then we're looking up to this key level, which is pretty much where we got rejected from previously. And then we got our range high about 132. Above that, now we got our yearly, right? So this is assuming that we continue moving up. First order of business would, however, be to get back into this range. One thing you want to pay attention for is if we come up to this price action, 96, 98 cents, right, and get rejection, we could be falling back down to this 3-month level. So this 3-month level is pretty much not really much, honestly. This is like, I'm trying to make this as clear as possible in TikTok. So you got the 3-month coming in right here, and that's not a lot of support, right? I find it unlikely that we'd go all the way back down to this level. Obviously, that just wouldn't, I mean, anything's possible, I suppose. But yeah, if we get that rejection. But if the market turns around right here, runs it back, you know, I'd be looking for that, you know, acceptance back into the range, and then we kind of run it from there. The 3-month level, though, the 72 cents, I mean, that really would be a good area of opportunity if we came down to that. But losing that 72 cents, if, just once again, big ifs, right? This is all about, you know, playing in our reactions here. Big if on that aspect, but if you get to that level and you lose it, that's probably not going to be a good time. But yeah, we re-enter this range right here, and you start looking back up. So the point of control does come in really close, like I said. So it doesn't give you, you really want to see this point of control like all the way back up here, or whatever, because you can basically assume that target coming into play. You can very well assume it's going to come into play if it's only 3 cents away at the time. So that's what, 3 or 4% when you get to this level. But overtaking this point of control, then yeah, like I said, you'd be looking up. You got a couple of key levels above you. You got the yearly coming in right here, and then from there we continue on. But you got a big journey, not a big journey, but we got a big move to overtake right here, is to really decide if we're going to come up and punch through, get back into the range, hold it as support, and move on, or if this downtrend is going to continue. And that 72 cents is really not got too much below it to hold it up. Yearly support comes in at 40 cents, but once again, I mean, you hold this range and you run from there. So it's really just having that game plan. You can mark down these levels, these ideas, keep your eyes for them. You could set alerts, right? I live on alerts. Whether it's here on TradingView or you can go through CoinMarketCap, CoinGecko, whatever, you can put alerts for prices, and then just kind of come back to it when they start meeting these levels and decide how the market looks at the time, right? What Bitcoin's looking like. Cardano's giving you heartburn. Yeah, the thing with Cardano is, and this is for me personally, just seeing Cardano, Phantom, VeChain's even one of them a lot of times. You got to remember where these things came from really, really shortly ago. So it depends on when you got in. But, there was such a time when this was 3 cents, 1 cent, 3 cents, 1 cent. I mean, this was years and years and years and years and years. So even now, you're still talking about this thing being up so much. Granted, most people, and I mean, it ran up, what, 4? Yeah, I mean, it was a monster. And even now, you're still up about 10x from, give or take. I mean, like this thing is just, it ran so hard. But granted, you're back down now into a position where could be a good area to be DCAing into. And if Bitcoin runs it back, this market is not done yet, right? So I know that's hard to believe, and we won't get into it here. But this is now an asset that is down, which it's not the only one. That's the one thing I want to point out. Is that, even if you're holding something like Trias and Xcur or, some of those low cap, high risk coins, they fell, don't get me wrong, but look at Cardano, a top 10, fell 75%. And this has been around, right, for at least 4 or 5 years at this point. You got VeChain that's been around for X amount of time. You got, all these projects that also fell, 80, 70, 90. OMG, regardless of what it is and the fundamentals and all this and all that, right? Because, it depends on how you want to look at things. But, OMG, fell like 90%, right? Like, and that's a top whatever. It's just this market, right? It's just the risk we take, unfortunately. Like, at any moment, you really do. And I know it's a dumb cliche to have to say, and everybody, does say it. And until you really, until we experience it, right? The whole don't put anything in here that you cannot afford to lose, and expect to hold a 90% downturn, like at all times. That's really this MO of this market. Obviously, yes, we aim to make and take. But for the most part, you really have to anticipate that, and until those kind of time frames come in, it's a hard lesson to learn in that aspect. But it's not just Cardano that's fallen this badly, or XRP, or anything. Everything has took the same hit, and even Bitcoin. Even if you were holding just Bitcoin, right? You're talking about it at the worst point here is down 55%, whatever it was, 50%, 55%. We can go over when you look at this kind of idea here. I was just going to go through the rest of the altcoins, is what I mean by that. But since we're just a couple of us chilling in here, we can take a little detour. But for Bitcoin, right, just there's something to consider here. And I went over this on that Debate Crypto show. If you guys are ever watching that, it's on Thursdays. But looking back to this, right, and I was a huge advocate. I won't pretend that I wasn't, right, of the previous cycle BS, right, and compared a lot of things, right? We only had 2 cycles so far, obviously, learning as we go, so to speak. But that analysis was only an analysis until it was not, right? So when I decided to pull the plug on that idea was December 1st, like I said, when we were at 60K. And, I knew that we weren't going to be fulfilling that. So one thing I want to point out about the current market. And, you know, people told this to me in the past, and at the same time I was like, yeah, we'll see how it goes. But, you know, one thing we have to think about is, you know, that the reason that these cycles would lengthen and so on and so forth, right? And you think about the stock market too, right? The stock market has got 200 years of, or plus, right, of support, resistances, you know, blah, 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 information, analytics. But what does it have behind it? Really, it's got trillions of dollars, right? So for trillions of dollars to be entered, moved, blah, 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 it's going to take more time, obviously, in that aspect. So one thing that changed here out of Bitcoin, though, in the last the key date that really made things change, in my opinion, was right here. December 17th, 18th, whatever, or December of 2017, which was the top of the market last cycle, right? And what got introduced here was institutions. All right, CME futures started this day. So now institutions are able to short, to long, right? Put in futures contracts, all that good stuff. That was not really capable over here. You have to imagine the institutions were buying, you know, back in this time frame. I have to imagine. I can't see them only coming into this market at 20K, but who knows? When you shorten it all the way to, you know, to the floor, I guess that you could really accumulate everybody's Bitcoin that they were holding from here anyways. But regardless, one thing that you'll note from here is that this is where we start really ranging this puppy out, right? Now we go into these huge ranges, which if you look into the traditional finances, the stock market and everything like that, you know, you see we have tons of ranges, every asset, everywhere. You get these long bursts of, you know, sideways accumulation, and then you get a huge burst to the upside or to the downside, right? You could break to the downside too. And that's pretty much what our last bear market, right? If anybody wants to consider that the what we went through, which is, you know, I mean, ideally that this part was really the bear market, if you ask me, right? This was a solid 1 year of just kind of continual, gradual downside. And then we've, you know, popped back up. Obviously, we had our, you know, the COVID dump, and then we moved on from there. And we had another just major rally, right? So if you look at this in that regard, right, you had this huge impulse, and then you ranged, right? And now it takes more money to come into this market, right? And then on top of that, we do have the institutions here, and they're the kings of taking profit. So do remember that, right? So, and we got this huge impulse, which might not look as big here, but, you know, you're talking the difference between probably about $200 billion to, you know, $2 trillion in this move here. And what have we been doing since, right? So I guess if you want to, you know, look at it like, if you look at it in that aspect on the bear market question, right? I just don't think anybody has a real answer on what a bear market is for Bitcoin, right? I don't know if we have enough data yet on what that truly entails. You know what I'm saying? Like, if that makes sense, because yeah, we had this, you know, year pullback here, but, you know, everything is just so, it's just very different. So, how that plays out, are we going to look back on this area at some point, right? Say we just range this out for the next year, and then we break to the upside from there around the next halving or whatever the case may be, right? That's just a perfect example. Will we look back and consider this the bear market? You know, who knows? But more than anything, to me, this is what I see us doing, right? So at some point here, we're probably going to run it back, whether it's the top previous high or not, you know, whether it's 58 right at that major point of control or whatever the case may be, you know, looking at a move to that nature. And then at this point, we have to pay attention, right? So are we going to break this range and move on, or are we going to get that rejection just like we did over here already and move it back down and revisit these 30K levels once again? Everybody will be looking at this as a triple top or a head and shoulders, whatever the case may be. We're going to have the measure move down to 20K, right? And then say we turn around from there, right? This is just speculation at its best. But regardless, this is kind of how I'm looking at this. I imagine the Magic Internet Money has a similar idea, but, you know, he's got more in-depth analysis here on Bitcoin specifically than I do. But yeah, to answer that question, you know, I hope that makes sense, if that makes sense. So regardless, we're going level by level, right? So like you said, I am done with the predictions of like looking for, you know, a year out, 2 years out, 4 years out. I could care less at this point, right? So we're gonna do with what's in front of us, and that's kind of how we'll go from here, right? And like I said, that analysis originally, right, was in play until it wasn't. And right there when we came back down December 1st, baby, 60K, I was like, yep, this ain't gonna work. So here we are, right? And spent the last 105 days adapting, adding some new strategies, new tools, new resources, and like I said, it's been a game changer in my opinion. While everybody else is just literally spinning their wheels, I feel, right? Like everyone is just absolutely just, still actually looking at this, right? Like, and once again, I was one of them. I'm not going to say I wasn't, that I was looking at these previous BS, cycle tops and blah, blah, blah. And at the time, I didn't think it was BS, obviously, right? There was a case to be made, but, really now looking back, it's like, does this, even in my own self, right? I'm criticizing myself really hard, right? Like, does this remind you of this? Like, you know what I mean? It's just so different. It's just different. Every single one, right? So to assume that this is going to be anything different than being different, I think is fool's game, fool's errand at this point too, to continually try to, guess where the market top is going to be and all this and all that. And so we've been making a pretty solid effort to, really map out what's in front of us right now, right? So if you're a long-term holder, then things like this shouldn't bother you. I do still anticipate, right, seeing our $200,000 targets met. The when is the question, right? That's the big question. And if we look at this too from a fib perspective here, I actually haven't looked at this in a while, but right, you can see we're literally even just ranging around in our fib zone here, right, between the 1272 and 1414 and the 1618. So I do still anticipate seeing some of these higher levels coming in. I'm just not going to say it's going to be, hey, this is going to happen in, 3 months exactly, or this or this. So we'll see how it plays out. But for now, I mean, we're basing off the lows. So until that really changes, right? We did come up. It looks like we hit this 1414, right? Perfectly, I suppose. So could we come back down to these lows? For sure, right? And we have a plan in place for that. So, when anybody, even this, right? This is still such a vague idea. Just looking at fib lines, right, on this one. So we've been really trying to dissect it, right? Get in there and see what we're really looking for, and we know what we're looking for. So we're looking to hold this monthly open for now. You lose that range low, then we're probably going to go back down to that 35K level, which is that point of control, right, that we just talked about from last summer. And then we've got levels below that too. So let's take a look at these couple altcoins. I know that we running out of time here. So we got AAVE, right? I bring up AAVE because it's kind of like I feel like AAVE is like the ETH of DeFi coins, right? It's like one of them at least. It's like Wi-Fi, AAVE, they're pretty big movers in the DeFi space. Usually in pretty, kind of indicative of how, that sector starts picking up sometimes. Sand and I guess sand and, mana could almost be looked at the same deal for like metaverse and stuff like that. But regardless, AAVE coming in, hit the range low based off of it. Point of control, right? Next major target coming up, about 149. Reclaim that. Looking to reclaim this monthly open. You really want to live above the monthly open for everything, right? That's our. If the monthly open is near us and we're below it, that's where we want to give above, no matter what. 158, 159. Reclaim that, and then we're looking up, right? So you got a monthly key level above that. Your range high, ultimately after that, so on and so forth. Lose this level, and we're probably coming back down to 110. But so far, we are holding the range low. Essentially, you go from the range low, you're going to oscillate back to the range high over time. So that'd be the trajectory at the moment. OC Pet Doctor, yeah, I kind of like just chilling with the small crew today. I'll probably do a live stream later. I did a live stream the other night, and it was like 30,000 people were watching. And I don't know if it's just because the market was dumping, or if it was the time. And it might be the time. It was like 11 o'clock at night, so maybe these mornings, aren't everybody's at work, I guess maybe. All right, so here we go. So this is what you want to see, right? So Avalanche on a grand scheme, this range low, range high, these orange lines. The white one is always going to be, well, not always, but most of the time when the white one's in the middle, this is the point of control. I try to tap out in white. Regardless, we held the range low way back over here, came up, reclaimed the point of control, right? Ran it up, came down. We based off the monthly open. So you want to be holding above this monthly open. So now we're holding above the monthly open and the point of control. We're good distance away from the range low. And we're coming into the monthly key level right here. So we got some resistance here. You got a pretty major level above you there. You take out those two, and we're looking towards the range high, the yearly open, and you got two small little levels above that. But AVAX is looking good, right? This is in good shape. Could come back down and retest this monthly open, especially if Bitcoin gets that little pullback or anything like that. I'd be looking for that $70 to hold, and then from there, AVAX is probably going to be a good move. Right, you got a good amount of support below us here with the open and the point of control. Monthly open kind of coming in, to the picture at the moment. You regain that though. You really only got this 1 year key level above you. And then from there, we're probably punching higher. Thing with AVAX too, you get past this 2 week level basically, and there's nothing between that and the all-time high. So realistically, this cluster that we're in right now is realistically the bigger areas of resistance, this $80 to $87 area. We get out of that. And then assuming the market's in a good shape too, right? And that, when I say that, like Bitcoin just has to be remotely bullish. It doesn't even have to be moving, just as long as it's not falling. Bitcoin holding over the monthly open at 38, 39K area. These altcoins can move. So the AVAX is a good one to pay attention for because it's already, positioning itself pretty well compared. And Hbar, I just wanted to touch on this one because I know everybody's bringing it up for the Elon tweet. All right, so Hbar. So same scenario as almost over here, right? We kind of felt when Bitcoin was falling the other night, this puppy was just falling hard. I'm not a big harmonics guy, but I'm trying to pay attention for some of these. But and this is just pure speculation from this level too. But I'm almost certain we probably got a harmonic in play right here, right? Whatever the case may be with that, but we'll take a look at that in the group actually. But yeah, so we had this run up, broke the range. Obviously, we deviated pretty heavily, and the same deal, right? This is why we want to pay attention for these range lows, and you can mark them, you can put them on alert, so you get alerted when they get re-entered or lost, however you want to look at it. But we did fall out of this pretty hard. But then when we re-entered it, essentially now, once again, you got a natural target when you re-enter these ranges. You can stop loss right at the range low if you wanted to, but these natural targets come up here at this point of control. And I know this is a short-term move and whatever, and maybe people are just holding Hbar for the long term. So, but in the long-term game, we're going to have a lot of these shorter-term moves that are going to equate to, those higher targets and whatever. But we re-entered the range here, and we ran it back straight to the golden pocket. Right, that's where we basically got hit with some resistance at the moment. But from the low, this was money, probably like 30%. 20. Okay. So what's funny is I'm actually going to take a look at this later because, while this could look like it was an Elon tweet that just so happened to come out here, I want to say something here because based on news, right? So say this was that harmonic I just pulled out, and I'm going to take a look at this after I'm done. I'm not saying that this is, but let's just pretend. Let's just pretend that this is in play, right? And we just completed this right here. You get a random tweet out of Elon at the same time because somehow that gets correlated. Maybe he's got analysts all over the world that are telling him, all right, we got this, bullish pattern that's about to complete. Send your tweet. Because yesterday there was a lot of time frame between when he sent that tweet and the price action moving, right? Because somebody somewhere even put a thing that was like, man, nothing happened. Maybe we're in a bear market. That's the indicator. And when in reality, this could have just been an actual bearish pattern that completed and we were taking off from here. But it correlates at the same time with these tweets, right? Like it's interesting to note that that could be in play. I'm gonna take a look at that, and we'll talk about that in the group. But like I said, that's a speculative pattern there. But regardless, re-entered the range low, golden pocket, hitting it right now. Get through that. Looking at the monthly key level above us, point of control comes in. That's actually our natural target since we re-entered this range. Point of control is at 28 cents. And then, I love the cluster, right? So this whole area is a really big area target-wise for me. You got point of control, you got your range high, you got a yearly opening, you got a yearly key level all stacked within like 2 cents. So that would probably be where we see some rejection if we get up to these levels. Getting through there, then we're pretty much looking up from there. So, yeah, that's pretty much Hbar though. Golden pocket is based on Fibonacci. So when you see a run-up, essentially you get pullbacks of 50, 60, 70, X amount of percent. Golden pocket is located right at the 6.18 and I put on the 6.6 as well. So this is basically a 62 to 65% pullback. Either it's a correction, so to speak. So it could be a pullback or a correction to the upside as well. So in this case, this was actually a correction to the upside. So what I did, you take it from the point high to the low. And then you're going to get this level here. So coming in from the high to the low, and then that golden pocket is actually right here, right where we almost wicked up to this 0.618, 0.65. But yeah, that would be interesting, right? That would actually probably make for a good video. Talk about how Elon launched this, possibly. It may not even have been the harmonic pattern there, but we'll see. But like this is the stuff though, right? Like let's just say that was like this is what you don't need to look for the news, right? I mean, yeah, I guess like seeing stuff like that and just knowing that all right, this people are gonna go buy it, I guess, and if that's people are buying, obviously, so price will go up at that level. But it's just always been such a risk and a gamble, right? Dogecoin, I know they got a good move for quite a while, and everybody was thinking it was because of Elon, and then but at the end, he was still tweeting about it, and it dumped 90%. VXV was one that he tweeted about. He got a nice move out of it, for one day, and then everybody's holding the bag. So it's like those things are just I wouldn't necessarily base my analysis around that, wholly. So that's like the first thing I do. Whenever I see like a tweet go out like that or anything, I go over to that asset and I look and see what kind of just finished up, or what did it just come into, what major support or what major resistance did it just hit that somehow this news correlates to at the same time. Sometimes that happens, but I got a couple of updates on even these charts I just put up today. So I was kind of making these this morning. So I'm going to put these in the group for everybody. And we'll go from there. And I'll probably do another live stream later tonight. Maybe we'll see if we'll do some A/B testing to see how the morning show versus the night show does. But I enjoyed being in here with you guys today. So I hope you all enjoyed this as well. And hope you're having a great day. Happy Wednesday. Like I said, today is the midweek exclusive members only update, right, in Discord. So for anybody that's interested in joining the Discord, link is in bio. Like I said, it's Leading Crypto, Magic Internet Money, and myself. We both run this together. So you get altcoin updates, you get Bitcoin updates, and we both do a midweek on Wednesday and an end of the week on Sunday exclusive member update only. Where last week we literally walked everybody in from Wednesday. We were at 45K. We walked them all the way into this range low scenario. So we got a really nice update coming tonight. The Academy for crypto fan Chris, right? This is where you can find that Fibonacci video. And yeah, we got a slew of other things in here, right? Go through this all the time. But anyways, anybody's interested, feel free to join. Otherwise, I'll see you all in the next video. For Bitcoin, just to kind of recap that, reiterate what we're looking for short term. All right, we're looking like we're getting a little bit of a pullback right now, and an emphasis on little, it's like $100. About $500. I guess that's a decent pullback, but we're getting a little rejection right here. So really looking to hold this monthly open 38,200. We hold that and we're looking up. So all right, everybody have a great day. We'll see you in the next time.